Trudie Mason sitting in for Elias this week, and we're going to turn our attention this segment to provincial politics. There is Council of the Federation underway. It opened on Monday. It wraps up later today. It's being held in Halifax, and our Premier, François Legault, is there. And as he headed there, we had a call from the opposition Liberals in Quebec City, calling on François Legault to be a little bit less himself, maybe, and act more collaboratively with the other provinces to see if they can together bring pressure to bear on Ottawa to address immigration challenges. We'll find out what's been going on and whether we are any closer to seeing that. We welcome to the Elias Makos show André Morin. He is the Liberal official opposition critic for immigration. André, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
My pleasure.
So heading into the big meeting of all the premiers, you said that Premier François Legault should take a new tack on this and try and rally all the premiers on the question. He has been quite sharp in his discourse with Ottawa about the burden that Quebec has been carrying vis-a-vis asylum seekers, the burden on Quebec taxpayers, the burden on our social services, the implications for housing, and so on. What made you feel the need to kind of prod him a bit to take a different approach?
Well, it's this issue of asylum seeker is a very important one. And statistically speaking, Quebec received and did more than its share of the Canadian population. So I think we have to recognize that. However, having said that, now it is important for François Legault, for the Premier of Quebec, to be able to carry and to move forward with this important item on the agenda in order to rally the other premier to find a solution for the number of asylum seekers that are it's increasing significantly over the last 2 years. So what I was inviting Mr. Legault to be maybe a less sharp than he is, and to be more open and to listen to the other premier in order to understand also their needs, to finally try to reach a consensus on this very important issue of the number of asylum seekers coming in Canada. So that was my invitation to him, because it's an important issue in Quebec, but it's a very important issue for Canada as well. And I'm of the view that this whole situation of asylum seeker is something that should be looked at by all the provinces, including the federal government. And for me, the Council of the Federation is a very good forum to address this very important issue.
Well, we've had François Legault saying that he did take that issue into the start of the meeting. It looks as though really the premiers wanted to focus on a couple of other hot button topics, and that immigration was a little bit maybe further down on the agenda if it was going to be there at all. He said, first of all, he's going in with a goal. He would like to see the number of asylum seekers coming in reduced by half. And he said he did on the sidelines speak to some of the other premiers, and that they seemed open to a discussion of some type of a collaboration, of some type of a group pressuring of Ottawa to try and engineer a reduction. But he wouldn't name the provinces that were expressing an openness to this. Is this enough for you to give him a thumbs up on his work so far at the Council of the Federation?
That's a beginning. I will wait a bit before giving him a thumbs up. That's a beginning. In my opinion, as I said, the Council of the Federation is a very powerful forum. In fact, François Legault should have addressed this issue more than a year ago. Now, he's doing it right now. That's fine. It's a start. We'll see. As you know, the premiers will conclude their meeting, and there will be a press conference around noon today. So far, I mean, it looks promising. The issue was addressed. Some premiers are open to discuss it. Some are saying, well, we receive also asylum seeker in our province, so we cannot take more. Others, that's what I've read. Others are saying, no, maybe we can take more. My point is, it has to be a topic that will have to be discussed, and it has to be an ongoing discussion, not only among the premiers of the provinces and the territories, but also with the federal government. And the federal government should also be open to look at the issue on that front. The commission that deals with asylum seekers and refugees have alerted the federal government more than a year ago about the number that it's increasing and the delay. And if you wait too long to deal with these files, it's not good for anybody. So that's, to me, that's a very important issue. I think it was important to address the issue during the Council of the Federation was done. Now it's an ongoing discussion to see if there will be a result or a consensus at the end of it.
In terms of numbers, are you okay with François Legault saying he'd like to see the number of asylum seekers reduced by half?
That's very difficult to tell. I mean, it's, as you know, the Canadian government has a very important responsibility. Canada is part of international treaties. So it's difficult for Canada to close its border. Now, what is important is to be able to determine if they are real asylum seekers according to the convention and or not. And if they're not, I mean, therefore they won't have the status and they will have to go back. And for that's for the Commission to deal with it as soon as possible. That's an important issue here. And because it's difficult to say, oh yeah, we should reduce it by half. I mean, you don't know. Maybe next year there will be less people coming in. Maybe there will be more. So it's really for the state to be able to be efficient, to deal with these requests as soon as possible, and then determine if they're real refugees or not.
I have seen some commentators already looking ahead to the U.S. election coming up this fall and the surge in popularity of Donald Trump, and wondering what that might mean for Canada if the U.S. becomes more unwelcome to asylum seekers. Are we going to see some variation on Roxham Road? I mean, we plugged that hole basically by shifting it elsewhere. So do you worry about that too, that a change internationally in migration patterns will bite us on the backside?
Well, it is certainly an issue that the federal government and the provinces should look at very seriously. You're referring to the next presidential election. Well, that's one thing. But if you look at the world, the whole world, you've seen people moving around in different parts of the countries. Climate changes have also an impact on the population, wars in other countries. So, I mean, there will be more and more people moving around. So it is, to me, it is an important issue. And Quebec will not be able to solve it alone. So it has to work in partnership with the other provinces and with the federal government. And the federal government should also listen to the needs of the provinces. I mean, it's a cooperation. People should be open and talk about this issue seriously, because immigration, people are referring to immigration and they're referring to numbers. But behind the numbers, you have real people. You have human beings, and it's a very sensitive question. So it has to be looked at, and I think it was important for Premier Legault to address and to try to talk with the other premiers on this specific subject and issue during the Council of the Federation.
André Morin, thanks very much for your time today.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
You too. André Morin is the Liberal opposition critic for immigration. When we come back, we are going to talk about rats, about the rat situation. We're going to talk about one case in particular, but it seems that the city might still have a problem with rats, even though, Montreal caved on that whole pesticide question.